So, okay, welcome everyone. I'm actually happy to see so many faces in this warm summer day. As you can see, my name is Norby, actually the co-founder and CTO at GoodGrind. To sum it up what we do, we try, or actually I would say we make our customers work less by automating their busy work so that they can focus on the creative part of their work. And I'm also one of the organizers of the Budapest JS meetup. But tonight, I'm actually here for the front-end meetup, not the JS meetup. And there's a very specific reason for that, because I have an agenda. So when I checked the about part of the front-end meetup, what it's about, and it said like various UX approaches, web, Kinect, and so forth. And I said, and anything you can imagine. And I was like, yeah, chatbots are underrepresented, and nobody really considers them. And I had this issue in-house as well that, yeah, let's do a chatbot. And I was like, no, get away with your chatbot. So I'll try to push them a bit more. But I'll tell you a short story on how we actually got here and why I'm standing here. So as I mentioned, we try to automate stuff. This means that we don't really get a contract that implement a web application for us. Rather, we work together with our customers and try to figure out what state-of-the-art things we can apply that makes sense, that has a return of investment, and that helps during the day-to-day basis. And this means that we actually have to focus on specific topics besides software engineering. We have to understand the business. And one of these topics is media, so media agencies to be more precise. What that means is that if, let's say, you have a company or a brand that you would like to advertise, grow, then you go to a media agency, you hire them, they create a strategy for you, TV advertisements, online advertisements, and so forth. And the online advertisement is the original trigger point of this talk. I think everyone's already saw online advertisements. You know, when you type something in Google, search for it, and the first couple of results are ads sponsored by whatever. That's essentially a pay-per-click ad. Facebook has those same things. Even with ad blockers, it's hard to escape everything. So what this means is that a PPC manager who creates these ads is actually working with the Google Ads UI, which is a beast. I mean, it's a huge application, a complex business domain. It's, I think, one of the largest Angular applications out there. That's what it's known for. And it really does a lot. And I just put it here just so you can imagine that usually a PPC campaign manager has to deal with a couple of dozens of ongoing campaigns which belong to separate clients and so forth. So it's really a lot of complexity. And to give you some rough idea on what the day-to-day tasks look like, it's not that monotonous actually. It's a bit hard to generalize it because sometimes it involves fetching data, sometimes it involves waiting or checking, waiting for notifications, so to say, or making sure that everything is on track, that what you discussed with your client, that this is our marketing strategy, is more or less followed. And this means that on a day-to-day basis, they have to keep track of a lot of small numbers. And if you miss something, that actually easily ends up costing money for you or for your employer. Because if I hire a media agency and the media agency does more advertisement than what I signed up for, is the media agency's job to pay for that excess usage because it's from their mistake. So it ends up costing actually a lot of money. And because of this, usually PPC managers have some interns, like similar to what we have in software engineering, that the senior has some juniors and so forth. So they try to delegate the tasks. Then those assistants actually open the UI. They start clicking through the campaigns, fetching some data, preparing some reports, aggregating all that together in the holy grail of all enterprise applications, Excel, and then the PPC campaign manager takes those Excel sheets and says, this is actually the fun part of their work because this is something that requires human creativity, experience, knowing the market domain, and so forth. And based on the data, they come up with a strategy or a minor step to keep aligned to the discussed strategy. And then again, send it to the interns who go click again. And this involves a lot of human steps, and this involves a lot of mistakes. And by this time, I would expect you guys to come on, say, come on, there has to be a better way, right? But actually, there is, as you would expect from a Google product, there's also a scripting layer on top of or below the Ads UI. So you can take your JavaScript snippets, copy-paste those into your campaigns, then save, and you will say they will do a couple of things for you. There's also a website where you can copy-paste scripts from. That's usually a safe thing to do. And there's also an API layer, like Google recently released their new API, which allows you to actually do everything through the API that you can through the UI. Before that was not possible, now it is. So there's a lot of possibility out there. But there's one thing missing here. I mean, think about it. There's a huge gap going from relatively user-friendly web application to scripting. If you are not from an IT background, you are not well-versed in coding, that takes a lot of effort. And these people are already overloaded as is. And shocking as it may sound, not everyone wants to go down the coding route either. So this is where we figured that we will do an experiment that there's a lot of things you can automate through a conversational chatbot. Essentially translates what you tell to a person to API calls. So how that looks like is that you open, for example, Facebook Messenger, type in, hey bot, fetch me some campaigns where this value is above a threshold, and you specify the threshold. Then the bot does that for you. You get back the campaigns. You don't have to wait for someone to do it, and there's less room for error. And you might be saying, okay, why not just a fancy web UI with like a configurable filter screen, like what Jira has for projects? I mean, that's pretty decent and flexible. There's multiple reasons for that. One is that, shockingly, these people were like, oh, not yet another web-based UI. We already have a couple of dozen of those, which are not working together at all. So they don't want yet another one. The other part is that this whole thing actually involves a lot of moving parts. So how you do an advertisement depends on which, or just a branding campaign, depends on which country you are in, which business domain, which customer, which product type, and so forth. And this is a constant turmoil because you are bidding for those spots. And if you have competition, like other companies advertising, I don't know, a new type of diet soda, then your bids go up. So you have to take a look at it on a daily basis. And this is why we said that there's too many varying parts. Let's try a different approach. So here we are. Rough summary, it's really about plugging things together. So nowadays, I would say software engineering is not so much about, I'm going to write this awesome algorithm, and I'm going to write a sort algorithm, and so forth. It's really about plugging things together, because that's more cost efficient, more reliable, and so forth. So you can imagine it is more as a DevOps route. The domain is really set. You have a bunch of messaging platforms, Slack, Skype, Facebook Messenger, so forth, WhatsApp. Each have their own API. You don't want to start messing with them separately. Your goal is to reach as many users as possible with the least amount of effort. Like Microsoft has a bot platform for this, which does the channeling and forwarding and everything for you. The BotKit is also part of that platform, which you can use to just abstract away this difficulty through adapters and some configuration. Then you have to actually understand what the user wants. That's a very deep and difficult topic. We will touch a bit on it. But fortunately, there are also, I would say, a lot of advancements in the last couple of years, so it's easier to get into this than ever. And of course, at the end of the pipeline, you have your business logic and the external data fetching calls. Now, to have some JavaScript, I put some JavaScript there. So that's actually BotKit in action. That's how awesome their API is. I have events, such as when a new user joined the channel. I have events for receiving messages. And then I can decide what to do with the received message. For example, if I receive the universal message of hello, BotKit checks whether the received message contains the text you put there, or you can put there some regular expressions, and then it works. Now, this actually reminded me of a quote from Einstein about infinite things, the universe and human stupidity. And actually, there's another infinite thing, a way to say hello. It's such a simple thing, yet there are hundreds and hundreds of ways to do it, just in a single language. And that kind of sums up the difficulty of NLP as well. What you really want to do is avoid having a regex challenge that satisfies all these greeting types. I can send you the complete list that I fetched just to have some examples. It goes from, well, okay, I heard that before, to pretty creepy ones as well, but that's up to your style. What we actually want to do is just know what the user intended on doing. So if it was a greeting, then that's all we need to know at this point. And this is the part where actually NLU, a subset of NLP, comes in, which is simply phrased, understanding the meaning of a sentence. So if you want to get started with NLU, there's a very simple way to do it. Either you go through all the theory, or you start from top to bottom. There are great solutions out there backed by all major IT companies. To list a few, like Luis from Microsoft or Dialogflow pushed by Google. All these solutions work pretty well. They have one thing in common, more or less. You define an intent through a list of examples. So let's say I want my bot to understand the question of why do you exist? Then I can train my bot to understand that question by formulating a couple of examples for this intent. After I do so, I do the training of my algorithm, try it out, try a couple of other examples, and hope that it works. Usually, you'll always find more and more issues, so you keep repeating these steps through a couple of routes, and then at one point, you will say that, okay, it works decently. And this is a very important part, I would say, because with this kind of front-end development, your code is no longer the value. It's your examples. The algorithms used by these services, doesn't matter which one you pick. These are not top secret algorithms. You can find the references, the papers, other implementations. That's easily reproducible by going to other vendors or implementing it on your own if you have all the time in the world. But what's unique is your examples, especially the domain-specific ones. I will get back to that. Just to give you an idea on how this looks like and why this is not enough, is that if I have a greet intent, like in this concrete example, Jim Kirk is using our chatbot. He says, "Hi, I'm Jim. I'm with Starfleet." Our bot does recognize that, hey, it's a person greeting us, but that that's all. There's a lot of information in that sentence that we missed, like the name of the user and the organization the user is affiliated with. And a proper solution that you want to have is not just understand the intent the user wants to or is trying to invoke out of your bot, but really also capture the nitty-gritty details. That part is called named entity extraction. That's also like the NLP topic. So if I say that fetch me all the campaigns from Tesco and send me a report tomorrow, that contains like, okay, it's most likely either a report or fetching, I'm not sure yet. That also contains an organization, in this case called Tesco, and it also contains a date. And with the intent and these parameters, you can decide what to do. It's not going to be fully machine learning driven, but you already have a bunch of information at your handlers, which you can use to decide on the next steps. And to give you a complete example, I mentioned that the intents and the examples are the value that you have. To be honest, the full value is your intent examples coupled together with the domain-specific properties. So if I say, what's my balance? It can mean different things. It can mean, can I stand on a single leg? Or what's my balance on the account or my bank account? It's context dependent. And in a bot, that's kind of the important part. Yes, you have bots online that can chit-chat with users, but that's kind of the generic domain we have. When you are using or building a bot for a specific problem, you have to build your own vocabulary of named entities. And this is the part that you can feed into various solutions and get similar results or feed it in your own solutions. But at the end of the day, this is the value that you want to keep secretly, because if your competition has this, they can reproduce your solutions quite easily. It's like publishing your source code. And so far, we only talked about single messages. Like I'm greeting the bot, I'm asking the bot to do something, but in practice, that's nowhere near enough. Usually nowadays, what's the hot topic is conversational chatbots, where you say that the conversation I'm having with an automated customer service, for example, is persistent in the sense that it remembers the previous questions or statements that I had. This is important because if you only think about a single message, you're not going to be able to process messages such as, OK, delete those, or OK, stop those. For you, that's no information if you process it on a sentence-by-sentence basis. And this part is where I would say it starts to diverge the solutions, because some providers offer you a rule-based solution, which is essentially either like similar to a business workflow or just specifying a state machine on this intent, intent came in, then do that intent or that intent, other intents are not supported or actions and so forth. And what's really cool, I would say, is the RASA way. What they do is that they provide you with a component which you can use that builds the conversation flow based on examples you specify. So like here, I can say that it's a common use case for our bot that someone enters the room, says hi, and sends the bot to fetch some data. Or enters the room, says hi, asks for the purpose of the bot, sends the bot to fetch some data, then says hi again, and so forth. And you write these examples down, or use your chat history to build these examples, and then RASA does a training algorithm for you and ends up supporting a conversation flow. And this even works with third-party API results. So you can say that my conversation flow depends on the result I get back from a third-party call. If I have no results in my search query, I cannot do a delete operation. It doesn't make sense. I'm not even going to allow it to go into that flow. I immediately say that, wait, there's nothing to delete. And the coolest part about this, and I think which I would emphasize here, is that you can use this approach to actually train your bot. When you start out, it knows nothing, right? I start it in training mode. I say hi. Bot says, I don't know. I check it and say that, no, the intent I wanted was greet. And then you say hi to me. Bot says, OK. It saves it into the stories. And the next time you go there, it will remember that, and you make your bot smarter. So essentially, it's like saying that you guys developed an awesome web application. I'm going to make it better and fix the bugs in it by using it. That never happens. And this is why I think that this is really a cool approach, and I would suggest to try it out because it's nice. And like the last part is why bother with chatbots? I mean, it's very niche specific, like Q&A or customer support. I would go away from all this and just state that think of it as a platform, like mobile was 10 years ago or so. It's one of the largest platforms out there. And you are losing out on a lot of customers, a lot of potential users if you are not supporting it. And the other thing is voice-based control is just a step away from here. I can use a service provided by Amazon that translates voice to text, and then I can feed it into my chatbot as well. Who here uses voice search or chatbot? As expected, no one. Neither do I. And you know what? But it's actually a trend in Western countries, a growing trend, and also in China. And by growing trend, I don't mean like from 10, 1 people kick Alexa to do something. No, like 30% of all search requests are coming from voice-controlled requests. 25% of shopping goes from chatbots and voice-controlled environments. And that's a lot. And it keeps going, and the trend is going up. And just think about it this way. There's a quote that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. So it might not be a trend here right now, but it doesn't mean it won't be in 2-3 years. And now the shocking part that I'm going to do a small demo. Now, it's an experimental bot, so like expectation management, but we are going to try some things out if all goes well. So this is the bot. This is like the custom browser interface. I apologize for not providing a Slack-based one, but technology has failed me. Like the purpose question, that's what I've been working on. So if I type, what's your purpose? And, damn it. That means I had a typo, and I will get back to that as well. What is your awesome. So 2 things to mention here. Like typo is one thing. You can put that into your kind of learning part as well. But what you would do here is use traditional programming methods, meaning you apply a spell checker before sending it to kind of the NLU part and so forth. The other is that right now we just did an API call to fetch the current weather, and that works, and this is awesome. Now, this is not what the bot is designed for. It's designed for helping me in Google Ads campaign. So, I don't know, list my campaign. So, believe it or not, it's not rehearsed. I don't know what I'm going to type, and I'm not sure whether it will work or not. But as you can see, it's actually not going through an Ads API, and I can tell you why, which I didn't tell you when I talked about the possibilities. It's extremely complicated, the whole Google Ads API and the authorization, the authentication and fetching data, and Google has to approve of your developer token to fetch live data and so forth, and that's a nightmare. And let's not talk about what we are allowed to share and what not. So it's mocked data, as you can see. And then I can tell it to, okay, I don't know, just fetch me my Tesco campaigns. You say, then it fetches those. And how it works is that it's able to determine, as you can see here, that there's like a campaigns terminology in the sentence, which is a domain-specific named entity. We have an organization called Tesco, and we have a fetch campaign intent. Now, if we put all these things together, then we know that's what we want to do. If I tell it just a single word like report, it doesn't work. Now, this is the conversational part, because it hasn't been trained yet that from a fetching part, I can go to a reporting part. So it's pretty, I would say, I'm going to phrase it this way. This bot currently is not the sharpest tool in the shed. What this means, it needs a bit more encouragement from me to work. And how you can do it is one way like this, is that you switch it to the interactive learning mode, and I say like, report. And then it understands that, yeah, I want to do a status report. Yeah, that's correct. Then the next action is to send me, yeah, that's also correct. And then listen for additional inputs. And that's kind of the status report is, as you can see, not yet implemented, but that's how it works. Then I can say to it, okay, again, report. Then it understood, that, yeah, it wants to do that. Awesome. Awesome, then I say, I don't know, purpose. Then it's not so sure. It's like, most likely you want to kind of ask for the purpose of the bot. Yes, we do that. Great, great. And then I say bye, goodbye, that's simple. Say, hi, I'm Bob, and this should not work, but it does, but not so certain. And as you can see on the right side, it prepares a story for you, which you kind of manually guide as well. And if you click the save button, it ends up in the story part, which defines how your bot works with conversations. And the idea behind this is that you also need manual human input to fine-tune your bot, and you can do it without actually coding anything. And that's kind of the cool part, is that you can do a chatbot just by listing examples, talking with it manually, telling what it should do, and I didn't write a single line of code to do this. It's just markdown with some simple text. And I think that since I did a chatbot almost 10 years ago with regular expression and friends, it came a long way since that. This is why I wanted to share this with everyone. So next time you have a use case, think about it from this angle as well. And that would be it from my side. Thank you for your attention.